Hello, welcome to A Little Less Than Random here with Jason, myself, Jason, and
Andrew.
Welcome, Andrew.
Right.
This is our first test run of the podcast, Little Less Than Random. You heard it here.
Is that the name? Are we sure that's the name?
That is just a temporary placeholder name. Whether it's going to stick or not, that's to be determined.
All right, so this is basically episode 0, right?
Episode 0, pre-pilot, I guess.
Right, so we're just testing this out, but we might actually post this if this goes well.
If it goes well, we might have to do a few more test runs, but that all depends on Andrew, of course.
On me? Why me?
You're busy, man, I assume.
All right, so my name's Andrew. I am an English professor, an adjunct professor. I play music. And I was motivated to start a podcast because I meet so many interesting people as a professor and as a musician, and I find that sometimes I want to talk to people, and so this would be a really great opportunity to talk with different people, including my interlocutor Jason, and because I meet so many people with different backgrounds and different interests and different perspectives. What was your?
And I really want to just have a voice. I want to inspire other people.
Right, you've been doing a lot of cool things lately on your social media and posting.
On Instagram, yeah, right. Chicano Cyborg, Chicano_Cyborg.
Cool.
I'm sorry, Chicanex if you want, but it's actually spelled Chicano Cyborg. That's my Instagram handle.
If you type in Chicanex, you won't find him. He's still got to change the name to be more politically correct.
I do like the X sounding part, because I'm a big fan of X-Men.
I do like the X sound. I did listen to an interesting podcast. I don't remember the name of it. I have to. Maybe we'll have to do some links to attribute to our sources, right? But there were these two women who talked about some of those names, like words like folks. When people spell it with X's and they're not even gendered to begin with. It just seems a little unnecessary. But in this case, the Chicanex, I actually do like the sound of that. But it's your preference, right?
It's a matter of preference.
Yeah, exactly.
But now if we're talking about personal pronouns, like what Jordan B. Peterson was talking about, I think it's a whole different matter, right?
Oh, you want to go straight to Paul? Okay, yeah, let's do that. So I'm actually a fan of Peterson's. I'm not a fan of everything he says. I don't believe postmodern neo-Marxists actually exist, but I do think that there are sometimes issues with political correctness, and I do think that some people do edit what they say on campus at my college, and I do think that some people are concerned about where some people get misinterpreted or they get maligned for maybe just a moment of ineloquence. And so that does happen. I think Jordan Peterson's thing is that you should probably be respectful, but it shouldn't be illegal. That's all it is. And, I think most people would agree with him. I think the best example is use of the N-word. I don't think most people think that people should go around saying the N-word on campus, but should somebody say it, and I'm sure somebody does say it at MVC
every day. Well, you can't say fire in a movie theater, but
No, but I mean, it should be, the word fire itself shouldn't be illegal. So there's context, right, to it. And so his point was that... Or at least
shout it out, at least, but, yeah.
Right, so his point was that... it shouldn't be illegal, and so most people agree. The N-word, not good. Should it be illegal? No. Should everybody say the N-word? No, probably not.
It's human nature. We can't really stop people what they can or can't say. We just got to be mindful of how and when, where to say it.
Right.
All these little
And there
factors.
Might be social consequences to saying it.
Yeah, there's always a consequence to everything. Maybe there's a consequence to putting this podcast, but not to be militant, but just to be informed, just to speak our minds about things that are happening in this world.
Right, exactly. Okay. So what do you want to talk about, Jason?
Well, you had a little bit of an intro, and I kind of not...
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, you've heard much about Andrew and his backstory. I am a 31-year-old Chicano, or Chicanex, male. I'm a cancer survivor. I want to just get that out of the way. Still here, 10 years free. I'm bionic. So... Yeah, that's and I'm just your simple guy, really. Am I academically inclined as my friend here, Andrew? Not so much. I'm more like the
Wait,
pop
hey,
culture.
I never said that. Don't put words in my mouth. I said that you were interested in pop culture and not just boring academics.
Okay, I'm not. Okay, first and foremost, let's make this perfectly
But you are
clear.
But to be clear, you are studying English and you are
Yes,
working
I'm
on
doing
your
all that.
bachelor's, right? Your undergraduate degree.
And I want to
in
be
English.
perfectly clear that I'm not a nerd. I'm a pop culture enthusiast.
Okay, yeah. We could
we
quibble
can-
about semantics later.
Because I know women are turned off by that. I mean, there's women out there.
Wait. Actually, you just got. Well, I mean, I don't know if you're girlfriend, boyfriend yet, but you're seeing somebody, aren't you?
Yes, I
Yeah,
am.
cool. Yeah,
And
Alright,
it's awesome so far.
Sorry, women. He's taken,
Sorry, yeah. So I'm seeing someone at the moment, but
and that's going well, right?
going well. But
Yeah,
never
cool.
say never either. But I don't know. Who knows? It might be long term. It might not be. But that's
I
life.
think that's a good perspective is to go, and I actually thought about that myself when I was dating, was to try to pursue things as if, without too many expectations, because I think people build up an idea about other people without just getting to actually experience and enjoy the moment of getting to meet new people. That's something that I found was sometimes some of my mistakes, because especially if you do the I don't know if anybody's still, well, a lot of people are doing the online dating, something like 1 in 5 relationships started online, where there's a moment where you haven't met them yet.
Well, yeah, I was fortunate because Facebook had just revealed their newest update feature. The Facebook dating. It's aside from your actual Facebook dating profile, but it kind of borrows elements from it. But other than that, it's within the same app.
Right, and I actually feel like Facebook does play a role in a lot of people's dating lives, even if they are not, even if they didn't meet online. There was one of my exes I met in person, but we really got to know each other and spoke mostly first through Facebook, and then met in person again and spoke more before we sort of hit things off. So that does happen too, different levels of and degrees to that, where you really sort of get to know people online. But you can easily build up an expectation about who that person is when you're still getting to know them. And that's something that to me that's really interesting.
Well, you have more experience than I do, Andrew.
Well, you're getting to know this girl, and that's good, or woman. That's another that folks.
I like to use that interchangeably.
Right. I've always wondered if I'm going to offend somebody by saying, "Hey guys," or "Hey women," or you don't want to say girls and treat people like.
Well, it depends on who you're saying it to in the situation. I'm 31, and I still like to call women girls.
Right, even if they're 31.
But if I'm really into them, women.
Okay.
I mean, it's a matter of the vibe. It's
Yeah, it's something about culture too, because ladies it sounds a little, just doesn't feel comfortable to say ladies versus
it feels like
women.
very what's the
I'd
word?
rather say women.
Antiquated.
But I don't know. Maybe the women who listen to the podcast can vote and tell us, hey, how do you like to be addressed?
Women, girls, ladies,
do you prefer...
whatever words you like to be dressed.
Right.
If you want to still be young at heart, girls, is it?
Right. I know, because I've heard people feel sad if somebody... so in Spanish, you do add you senora versus senorita versus... is it doña?
Donna.
Right. There you go. That's even better. You got it. And so... some women are sad when they hear senora versus senorita, and
tú y usted.
and sometimes
To any of the Spanish speakers out there.
do you ever get that? Do you ever feel a little different depending on how you're dressed? So let's say you're buying a coffee and they call you sir. How do you feel about? Do you get that a lot?
I really don't even think twice about it.
Right. I don't know. Sometimes I feel a little weird. It's like, who are you calling sir? I'm not that old yet.
No, I do remember at Walmart. I went to the bathroom and the little kid, I opened the door for this little kid who was coming through he was exiting the bathroom. He said, "Oh, thank you, sir," as I was holding the door up. No, and he didn't say sir. What he said was old man.
Oh, old man.
And I felt offensive. Like, how old do you think I am?
Yeah. Well, bruh. Don't open the door for
This
little
was
kids,
like
bruh.
a little 3 or 4 year old kid who
Well, to a 3-year-old, you are 10 times their age.
That's true, but do you
Bruh.
not have a grandpa?
Bruh.
That is an example of old. I'm not trying to be offend
Well,
anyone here.
little kids are really bad at gauging other people's ages. And so I realized this quite young. So I was 24 when I started teaching. I taught at this private school, and I was teaching band. And it was just really funny because my brother, being 10 years younger, kind of kept me in sort of interested and still watching cartoons. I watched cartoons with my little brother quite a bit, and so I watched the same cartoons these middle school kids used to watch.
I thought you said you didn't have childhood.
I didn't have a childhood. Well, my brother had a little bit more because I got him interested in some of those things too.
Oh, I see.
So I probably discovered anime and things like Dragon Ball Z a little bit later than other people did. But then my brother got into them much earlier because of that.
I see.
Yeah, so it's a little different. So it's kind of like I had a childhood when I was a little bit older in my teens.
Well, I mean,
and yeah,
better late than never, right?
Yeah, but I didn't get all those video games and all those other good things.
Well,
I had a
look at
Pokemon
you,
game.
though.
I had a Pokemon game when I was in middle school. That was my first game. It was a Game Boy Color. But I think my sister stole it like most of the time, so I hardly played it.
Yeah. I'm more of a Street Fighter guy.
Yeah, I never did that.
Yeah.
I don't know. And so
I mean, we can talk all day about Street Fighter or fighting
I
games.
probably can. That's
That would take up the duration of this podcast, actually.
right.
So yeah, I am part of the FGC. I'm not really
Wait, define that because
fighting game community.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, it's an open community. Am I a top level player? No, far from it.
I feel like when you use acronyms, you're trying to push me out of your community.
I'm not.
You're the insider, and I'm.
No, you're the outsider.
Exactly right.
Yeah. So this girl I'm dating, Laura, she's actually.
Wait, should we say names?
Just first name.
Okay, yeah, first names. Okay, so we're still figuring out this podcast. Like, what do we want to do? Are we gonna have sponsors? Are we going to?
Depends if we
get
kept
political? Right. Are we going to?
We'll figure out our niche as we move along.
And maybe even as an audience, you guys can leave us comments and tell us, hey, what would you like? What would you like to hear us talk about?
We'd appreciate any feedback.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts are appreciated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Just don't bash us too hard.
Exactly. We're trying, but we're just
we're just experimenting.
We're just people doing this. I mean, we're not professional YouTubers. We're just doing this in our spare time.
Just like I'm not a rapper.
Yeah.
I do have a friend who's a rapper.
Oh, you do? Yeah.
Maybe we could bring him into this podcast.
Yeah, so that is one of my goals. So as a musician too, I have so many cool friends with interesting views. Some of them are. I'm gonna be honest, you guys. Some of you have some weird views. Like I totally disagree, and I want to disagree with you in person. So you can. I want to model good disagreement where you can still be friends with people who might believe that the Earth is flat. And some of you do. I know,
I'm walking out the door into my car. I'm just kidding.
I know, right? Yeah. No, I'm not saying I believe the Earth is flat, but.
And then people would say pizza's the vegetable, but come on, let's be real.
It has vegetables on it.
I mean, yeah, but. Well, anyway, let's just move on to actual serious discussions.
Okay, well, no, I thought the goal was to be less than serious, like less than random, less than serious,
true.
Like a little less than academic too.
Again,
I like academic topics.
Again,
but we don't
like we said, we're trying to figure this out.
Solely saturate it with.
I just don't want to be, a ponder of that idea of whether or not pizza bar. Anyway,
right. Well, we talked. Okay, so we talked a little bit about culture, dating. I did want to talk about. So, was it? I wanted to talk about perfume and cologne.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of those things.
What about it? Is it my scent? My scent was too much for you, Andrew?
No. So, well, okay. It's interesting because when you first spray cologne, it's really strong, and so it can be really difficult to gauge how much cologne or perfume one should wear. Is that what we were talking about, right?
How much is too much? That's the question.
And so I think we had a bit of a disagreement in conversation about how much that is, because I related it to, and some of you might have heard of the term manspreading.
Which refers to a man having his legs open in public.
Taking up space, more space than you need to. Right. And so this was that. I thought of it like as a figurative form of manspreading, where your cologne is taking up space and impacting my freedom to breathe normally in situations like do you want, when you have cologne, my views is that you want to smell good for you, because it's probably 90% for you, and so the people who should smell it are maybe you and your significant other,
or when any other women I'm trying to get their attention.
we just don't want to smell bad, and you don't want to smell bad when they're close to you. But I don't think the cologne should be you should smell people from 10 feet away.
That we should or shouldn't?
Shouldn't. I think that, if you smell somebody from more than 10 feet away, it's like, again, we're not talking like it's bad. I'm not saying manspreading is bad. I actually disagree with the concept of manspreading. But this is similar in concept, is that the idea of taking up space. And maybe manspreading is real. Like maybe there's 2 seats and somebody could let an old lady sit, but they decide to put their backpack in that.
You know what? It's just by human nature, something we subconsciously do. About us guys, I don't really know. I mean, maybe I'm guilty of it, but has any woman really came up to me and said,
"Wait, didn't a
I
teacher,
find that sexist"?
Well, not the sexist, but the manspreading. Didn't a teacher at Cal State say that to you?
She said that, but she said jokingly, but I didn't get the reference.
I actually thought you took that really nicely. If I were you, I would have maybe given her a harder time. Yeah, I think it's good when you can take a joke. I just thought, given that you have your, you have your prosthesis, or prosthetic, that you might not be aware where your leg is at all the time.
Yeah, sometimes I have to stretch, and then I'm a big guy too, so
so I thought
in this little itty bitty classroom,
right? Those stupid desks that whoever bought those, that person.
For the college tuition for the university I go in, you think they'd have better
facilities,
student tables, like desks,
like
the ones they have at where you're at.
Oh, I don't know. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. It just depends.
At least they, you can move. They have wheels underneath.
Right. So, anyways, I would have been a little bit offended had I been you. In fact, I'm a little offended for you. Maybe that's weird. We're different people, but I found it to be a very crass comment that you don't always know where your leg's at.
And then I didn't get the reference either, manspreading, but like from a context cue or whatever. I think she was trying to make a point, but I didn't really... Lighthearted point.
And that was, I think, I do think that's nice of you, because sometimes people say things and it can be, they didn't mean it the way it comes out, or they didn't think about it as well as it could have. Even a smart professor like your professor. Well,
she's a linguistic professor, so she's going to throw out linguistic jokes or references.
Right.
So, yeah, well, that had me not inspired me, but that had me curious to know what manspreading was.
Right. And so do you think that there's a possibility of perfume taking... So here's my view, is that it's possible that it's not necessarily wrong, but you don't want to stand in line next to somebody whose perfume is so pungent that it gives you a headache, right?
Of course, and I don't, and there's probably women out there, and I'm not saying every woman
or cologne. Women could be guilty of this too, right?
Yes, I've smelled like the muskiest of perfumes, and whether it came from an attractive woman or not, it was just too much.
Right, it's certainly possible. Although,
and when some women are oblivious, I'm sorry, Andrew, oblivious to the fact of how much perfume they have.
A lot of people, men. Or men. Yeah, a lot of people are oblivious to how they smell.
As you were gonna say, I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say that it also depends on what time you interact with the person. Because if they just sprayed it, of course they're gonna smell. It's gonna smell much stronger. I can't smell your cologne anymore, and so
it just probably wore off.
Yeah, which is so it. It just depends.
And that was my best cologne too. So maybe if I want to use a lighter cologne, like depending on what I'm doing or the occasion, I'll use that cologne. If I want my best cologne, I'd save it for date night.
Right. And since people can't smell through the airwaves here, do you want to say what kind of cologne it was so they can go smell it and determine for themselves?
It's a Lacoste Essential. There you go. Free marketing advertisement. Thank you, Lacoste. You're welcome, Lacoste.
I know. And so that's something when we do more of these, we're going to explore is, do we want to try to get some advertisers and, just right in the middle of our podcast and say, have you tried ZipRecruiter yet? If you haven't tried ZipRecruiter, ZipRecruiter will get you the right people to do the job that you should have did yourself better anyways. something like that.
Yeah, and we would have to like inject or insert that transition, like spin it off
Right.
from what we're talking about related to the ad.
No, we don't
And
even
then-
have to. We could just make it funny. Like, it could have nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Exactly.
Just like those other podcasters do.
Or they just run.
Or they just pre-record it and then they just start going right into the pre-recording and they just play it every single time.
So that way you don't
Randomly.
have to say the ad every time.
Mm-hmm. And I love it too when you can obviously tell that they recorded in a different room in a different setting. It's so different. It's so random.
Like me, I wouldn't catch on to that. Maybe you would because you're more of an audio
person. Yeah.
You're an audiophile.
Not an audiophile. I just am aware of it. I think. Well, I'm nitpicking with you. Audiophile is where, I guess it's, how would I define it? Somebody who really cares about the sound as far as fidelity, whereas somebody who's just an audio person or audio engineer, they can tell the difference. That they're not necessarily picky with the quality of the sound and. I don't know.
So how would you describe yourself when it comes?
Well, because I think I like good quality sound. I would get annoyed if the sound was bad, but I'm not necessarily looking for the same experience. Like I have a pair of studio monitors here in my studio. Studio monitors are meant to give an accurate reflection of what you're recording into them, whereas audiophiles are looking for like this experience of surround sound. Like I'm not a surround sound type.
So you're an audio enthusiast.
Yeah, let's call it that. Yeah.
Just like I'm not a nerd, I'm a gaming.
Just like you're not a rapper.
Yeah.
I'm not an audiophile.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not a podcaster, but I hope to be.
Right. Yeah, we're getting a good start here, I guess.
Yeah. Guys, women. I'm saying that generalization.
How about folks?
Folks.
Or comrades?
Comrades.
It's a joke.
Peeps.
Peeps.
Peeps and freaks out there, homies, whatever you identify yourself as.
Right.
We'd appreciate any comment, any feedback.
Right. Cats, cool cats. I like the jazz cats.
Cool cats. You know what?
Yeah.
Speaking of cats, I like that. You need like this beatnik jazz, like, or some pieces like dun 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 in the background.
Yeah, that's like the walking bass drum.
Like dun,
walking
dun.
bass, yeah.
But it would feel like it would be too much of a comedy act. Like if I'm just spouting one-liners.
Oh, I don't know. You mean you just tell a bunch of jokes?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be cool.
I'm not a comedian.
Maybe we should have a segment for that, like Jason tells a joke, and then the corner joke follows.
I don't want to be known as the guy who tells a pathetic joke.
Well, just one or two.
A lot of my favorite jokes are actually from actual comedians.
Oh, okay.
So I don't want to.
Yeah.
I mean, I could cite their jokes, but I won't blatantly say that it's mine.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that is a big thing in comedy. Is like trying, and the thing is that a joke might seem cool. It's like, how do you know you didn't hear that joke before?
Well,
I feel like all creative things don't happen in a vacuum.
I mean, there's no original idea, I guess, but
Yeah.
there is. It's just few and far between.
Right.
It depends who said it and how it was said. Points of jokes are they have to be delivered, otherwise they can miss a total interpretation of a joke. Like just recently, one of my supervisors I rarely see at work, I parked in the disabled area. And she made a joke that it just caught me off guard, and I don't know if I was offended or not. But I parked in the handicap area, and she said, like, I think she said something to the effect of, I can't believe people, like, she said, like, I can't believe people would park, to think some people would park in a handicap area. Or she said something like that. Well, I guess...
Did she mean, like, the people who don't have the placard, who haven't gone through the steps, who just park there because they're just lazy and they don't want to look for parking? Yeah, I think she said that. Yeah. I think that's what she meant, and so.
But I think she already knew I was handicapped.
Yeah, and so she means like I think the people who would take the space so that people who legitimately need the parking spot.
And there are those people. I've seen people who aren't even handicapped. They didn't have the placard or the tag.
Or worse, they just leave their carts in the handicap lanes. It's
and
like,
that grinds my gears.
I know, like that to me is another level of just blatant egocentrism. It just lack of forethought. It's like it's gonna be much harder.
There's no common courtesy in today's society.
I know, right? There was the other day I was outside and somebody parked in the spot for wheelchair access, the little ramp. Because sometimes you know how it's wide enough a car might actually fit. They just parked right in there, and I actually told them, they're like, "Fuck you." Wait, can we cuss on here? Are we gonna cuss?
Why not? It should be edgy.
Right. Well, it depends on the format, I guess. If it's on YouTube, I don't know if we can. So I guess I'll have to put a little owl sound or something.
Here's
some sound effects in there.
Yeah, like some censored beep. But here's the thing, though. I believe in freedom of speech.
Like Jordan Peterson.
Yeah. So I should say fuck if I want to.
Right. Sure.
But should I say incessantly? No, unless I make a good point. And I say it's just depends on what I say and how I say it, and therefore I should say fuck when I think it's necessary. I mean, we're adults. I assume you're adult if you're listening to this.
Right. Yeah. Or you have the I tell my students if that they have to that when they sign they don't actually sign it, but when they accept the syllabus, they're accepting it like they're. Well, I don't know. Can podcasts be that way? You're accepting it like an adult, so that means I have a freedom of speech clause.
So, like terms of agreement and using...
Kind of, right. So that
terms and conditions.
We're going to have difficult conversations in this class, and that we're going to be as kind as we can be, but we're also going to be willing to disagree.
Like a trigger warning?
Kind of. Yeah, it is kind of like a trigger warning in a sense, but the positive kind in that... I want people to disagree with one another. I want to have vigorous, heated debate sometimes, but also where we're attacking people on the basis of ideas and not obviously on the basis of identity.
It should be respectful, nothing more.
Yeah.
I know we live in a culture where...
Well, you respect people, but you don't necessarily respect ideas. And that's the difference.
I mean... I don't even know if I want to bring up politics. I mean, we can make a little reference, nod.
Well, I'm always about being open and honest about my biases and my angles.
We all have biases.
Do we want to go into that and talk about?
I mean, we can, but I mean, like again, our opinions are our own. You might disagree with me. You might agree with me. You might agree with Andrew.
I'm pretty sure we're going to disagree.
We're going to disagree with each other too. Yeah. I mean, we're friends. Friends not always agree with each other. I'm not a yes man. Neither are you.
We didn't agree on the example with your professor who, made the joke about manspreading. Like, you and I had different views on that. You're kinder. Maybe am I more of the social justice warrior of the two of us? I don't know.
Careful what you say, because you might end up being once you apply that term to yourself, there's no going back.
Well, I actually think that I tend to be to the center left if I have to describe myself. But between the two of us, maybe I would say that I do probably lean more that direction. Maybe that's just my environment. Being an English professor in academia, I guess it's not surprising that would be my perspective.
Yeah, well, everyone has some political spectrum. Me, I'm more neutral. I used to think liberal was a good thing, but now I don't even know.
I think it's still a good thing. I think that, so I am a fan. One of the reasons I like podcasts, I follow a lot of people. I'm a fan of the intellectual dark webby type, the Jordan B. Petersons, Sam Harris's, Majid Nawaz.
The Ben Shapiro's.
I'm not as much a fan. See, that's where I do lean left a bit. Not as big a fan of Ben Shapiro, but I do listen to and watch a lot of his stuff. But yeah, I guess you could say the Ben Shapiro types, the Gad Sad types. Shout out to Gad Sad. I've used his book in my classroom before.
And that's where you come in with all this knowledge. I try to listen to every word they say, but everyone has something to say. It's kind of hard to follow their ideologies.
Right, there's a lot to follow. But there's an interesting term that they use called regressive left. I don't know if you've heard that before.
I believe not. Can you tell the audience what that is?
So, progressive is somebody who wants to see society move forward. Progress is good. We want to increase access to education. We want to increase access for those with disabilities, for example. So imagine you have a building with 2 stories. I think popular commentator Dave Rubin uses this example. And it's difficult for somebody with a disability to get up the stairs. You don't tear down the 2nd story of the building. You don't say, to make everybody equal, we're going to erase the stairs. No, you build in a beautiful ramp that helps everybody, or you build an elevator. In education, we call this universal design. It's a concept that makes everything more beautiful, makes the content more beautiful, makes the content more accessible for everybody, and just makes the overall teaching and learning experience better. And so that is progress. Now, the regressive left wants to just tear down the whole thing because there are inequalities. So that's regressive. So Majid Nawaz coined this term regressive left, and I've become a fan of it. And I don't know.
So I'm trying to understand here. When you say regressive left, is it almost like this the same thing as like radical inequality or something like that?
Well, regressive left is when
Or are we talking about like radical leftist liberals?
I think that's the best way to describe it. And I don't always say liberals because I do think liberal is, like you said, you're not sure if you call yourself liberal. I do think liberal is still good. And I do think to be a progressive is still a good thing and that should be something we seek out. But regressive is to regress is to kind of go backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I think is what people mean when they say the regressive left. And that's why I like it as a term.
So we got to step back to move forward?
No, they just want to step backwards to make things equal, right? And so they're trying to address inequalities by just saying, well, let's just hold everybody back then, right? And I've actually encountered this recently on my campus with an article that was shared where they found that this program was benefiting some groups more than it was benefiting other groups. So rather than trying to figure out how we can get the other groups to gain just as much from the group that is benefiting, they want to just stop the program, even though it is benefiting minorities as well. So it's just not benefiting minorities as well as it's benefiting some of the other groups that already have good access to education. So regressive is when you're taking a step backwards. And so taking a step backwards and you're right that sometimes taking steps backwards isn't always bad, but because sometimes you do have to kind of take a step back and rethink, reevaluate. Right? Yeah, that sort of progress. Progress isn't always a straight line, but these people actively take a step backwards because they think it's progress. And so I think it's a misinterpretation of what progress
So maybe it's like 2 steps forward, but 1 step back.
Yeah, but they're not trying to go forward. They're just trying to create equity. They're a version of equity. But, I mean, if you look up, when you see equity versus equality, there's a famous picture of these kids trying to watch a baseball game. Have you seen that picture?
I'm not sure.
Well, we can link to it maybe. I don't know if we're going to add links to this.
It's up to you, Andrew.
But people, if they look up equity, they'll probably versus equality, they'll probably just Google search it. They'll find that picture. And so there's examples of kids stepping on these boxes so that they can see over a fence. Mm-hmm. And if you don't want everybody to just be equal where nobody can see the game, right? Because what if you took away all the boxes and you made the kid in front that is tall enough to see over the fence, you just made him kneel, right? That wouldn't be good. You'd want to increase access so that everybody can see the game. So I would say take away the whole fence, right?
Interesting analogy you use there.
Yeah. Well, it's not mine. It's a famous, popular one that is really common. But anyways,
I've never heard of it, but I'm hearing it from you though. So
cool. I think that's going to happen a lot.
Maybe you should put that link so I can know more about that.
Yeah, you were telling me about some of your references for. Well, I don't even remember video games and culture, and so we'll learn some stuff from.
We'll learn from each other, for sure.
Yeah.
And perhaps we should take a break.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be back.